Hello friends, this video is airing on Memorial Weekend. I hope that you all are celebrating our freedom and remembering all the people who have fought for our freedom in this country. This video is a compilation of all of my favorite patriotic DIYs that I've done since I started my channel. So remember that any giveaways or any mentions of previous collaborations, they're all null and void. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy the creations. Hopefully you'll be inspired to create some patriotic DIYs for your summer decor. I have this wonderful wood that my cousin brought to me that she had left over when they remodeled her house. She had a remodel in her bathroom, and this was the wood that was behind her shower. And then of course I still have some of these spindles, so I'm going to pick a few of these out that are all matching, and we're going to paint them. 2 red, 2 white, 2 blue. So I used the Marquee by DIY and Hey Sailor by DIY, and I believe I used White Swan by DIY. I only had to do 1 coat of the red, 1 coat of the blue, and I tried to do a coat of the white, couple coats of the white. It just wasn't covering, so I ended up doing a coat of, I believe, maybe faded burlap, and then did another coat of white on top, and that worked out better. So hindsight, I would have just done a darker coat on this brown and then done the white on top, and I would have gotten a lot better coverage. You can see that the coverage on this white is not that great. Then I took some white wax by DIY, and I'm just going to show you on one of these to save time, but I took a stencil brush and chippy brush. You could use any of those, and I just put it on there pretty heavy. And then I took an old piece of white soft cloth. It's an old t-shirt I use in all my DIYs, and I just wiped back however much I wanted to. You can wipe back as much or as little as you want. And with this one, I tried to mix a little bit of the faded burlap paint into the clear wax, and it didn't work real well for me. So I just did it, but it didn't really do that much for me. I'm going to paint these 3 little wooden stars white, and then I'm going to take this piece of wood that I cut to the desired length that I want, and I'm crossing my fingers to hope that when I drill a hole in this, it doesn't split the wood, and it did not. Now I'm going to use this wire that I got at either Home Depot or Lowe's, and it comes with its own little cutter built in, which is amazing, and see if that will fit through that hole the way that I want it to, and it does. So I'm just going to drill enough holes across the bottom there for however many spindles I have, which is 6. I had pre-measured and marked where I wanted those holes, by the way. I wasn't just drilling those willy-nilly. Now that I've finished that, I'm going to drill some, I'm going to lay these out how I want them. And I think they turned out so pretty. And my cousin suggested that I do these every other one upside down. And I really like the way that looks, but I was afraid if I tried to drill holes in that little thin end that it might not work so good. So I decided to use the thicker end, and I'm going to drill a hole in each one of them. And I measured from the end so that I could get the hole in the same place on all of them. So all 6 of the spindles got holes drilled in the end. And now I'm going to attach them. This was a little bit tricky, but once I got the hang of it, it went pretty easy. So I'm using that wire that I got. I'd had that in my stash for quite a while. I'd used it at a vacation Bible school craft, so I had some left over. It's been in my stash, and I just decided to use it for this project, and it worked out great. So I'm just looping it through there and twisting it really good, making sure that the little twisted part stays on the back side. It will try to go through that hole and get on the front, but I kept them all on the back side and measuring to make sure they're all the same length. If they're not, you just twist or untwist that a little bit more to make them the same length. Now we're going to make a hanger. I took this heavier gauge wire that came in a similar roll as the other one, and it was silver. I took it outside. I spray painted it with some brown and some copper spray paint to make it look like it was an old piece of wire. I wish I would have had some old baling wire, but I didn't. So we're just going to use this, and it turns out good. So I'm just going to show you on one side, not both sides, because don't want this video to be super long, how I twisted that in. And if you have a better way to do it, just do it how you do it. I did mess up the paint a little bit when I was using the pliers on it, so I just took a little bit of paint and daubed it on there to fix it. Now these little wooden white stars that I got on Amazon, that I already painted white, I'm going to just glue them to this wood. This wood piece, I didn't do anything to it. I left it just like she brought it to me. I wiped it down with a cloth to get all the dust off of it. Other than that, I just left it like that, nail holes and all. Now I'm going to flip it over because I don't want that wire to scratch my wall. I'm going to take a piece of this, it's that muslin drop cloth that you use for painting. And I'm going to I cut a little strip and I'm just going to glue it down all the way across the bottom there, focusing the glue right on those little wire pieces. And this is going to keep those wire pieces from slipping back through and having the twisted part come to the front. So I do that all the way across the bottom, and then I cut a couple little squares to go on the back side of the hanger because we don't want that wire scratching up our wall and messing up the paint on our walls. I think this turned out so adorable. I love it. It's so vintage and patriotic, and you'll have to let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Our next DIY is not red, white, and blue, but it is still very patriotic. So I had this scrap piece of wood, I sanded it down, and I'm taking this mixture that I had left over from a previous project. It is layered chocolate by DIY paint, and I've mixed a little bit of crinoline in there. And so I'm just using it as a stain. I'm wiping it on or wiping it off. I feel a little bit like the Karate Kid. Wax on, wax off. Wipe it on and wipe it off. And it is a beautiful color in my opinion. I love it a lot. So this is what I did to the front, the sides, and the back. I'm going to use my heat tool to dry it. And then I found this free printable on the internet. All you have to do is use Google, put free printable sheet music, whatever song you want, and you will find a lot of people that have it on their websites. So I cut it down, I decided how big I wanted it, and then I started ripping it up so it looked a little worn and tattered, and did that around all four edges. And then I took the DIY Dark and Decrepit Dust, and I put a little bit in this little favor cup. I get these little favor cups at Dollar Tree. They come in really handy for all kinds of little projects to do paint in, or dust, or glitter. And then I'm just taking a dry paint brush and just dusting it on the edges. And I'm doing it over the cup so it falls back in the cup if any of it falls off, which I didn't have a lot of it fall off. So I put it on here, and look how pretty it's going to look. Now on the back of it, I am putting a nice layer of Mod Podge. This is on the back of the sheet music. When it's completely dry, I'm going to iron it down to our piece of wood with my little mini heat press. You can use an iron. Just make sure that you do not have the steam turned on. You do not want any steam. Now I'm taking the layered chocolate. You can see how it's a little bit darker than my original paint because I had added some crinoline to it. So I'm using the layered chocolate. I'm going to dry brush some on there. I'm going to actually use, I believe, cake batter. Yes, cake batter by DIY, and just dry brush on there to give it a little dimension. I want it to have some aged look, and this is what it looked like when I got as much on there as I wanted. And I actually even went over the paper a little bit with the paint, and now I'm just taking a piece of sandpaper on a sanding block and just sanding it in a few places. And now I did not get this on camera, but I used my amazing crafting resin, the one that dries in 10 minutes, and equal parts, stirred it up, poured it in the molds. I'm kind of giving you a mock-up here. And these little rosette medallions are absolutely beautiful. The detail, look at the detail in the mold. And when they come out, I'm showing you that there's that lip, and it tells you how much to mix up to put in there on the IOD molds. I get my IOD molds, stamps, transfers from Two Chicks Home and Market over Denison, Texas. And she sends them to me when I order. She is amazing. So I'll leave her link in the description box below. If you're if you're ordering for the first time from Elsie, she'll give you a 10% discount if you use that link, which is great to get a 10% discount off IOD. So I just used cake batter and I stippled it on, and I did 2 coats on there. And now I'm taking this gilding wax, and first I started out with a Q-tip, and I thought I was just going to like highlight it with it. Then I decided to take a little pointy paintbrush, it's an artist brush, and just go in all the nooks and crannies and cover this completely. I really didn't know. I know what I wanted it to look like. I slowed this down so you could see what in real time how long it took and what it looks like. I did use my fingers on parts of it, but to get down those nooks and crannies, I did use a paintbrush, and I really wanted these to look like medallions. They are the rosettes, but oh, they turn out so pretty. Just watch. And I kind of just flew by the seat of my pants here. You know how you just keep adding stuff, and you wonder if it's actually going to turn out, and then in the end, you're like, oh, I'm glad I didn't give up. Well, I took the Shipwrecked wax by DIY to give it that verdigris look, and look how pretty they start looking. I did take a little white wax and dabbed a little white wax in a few places as well, but I don't think I got that on camera. Now I'm taking my clear wax and I'm going to wax this front, back, sides, seal that paint because DIY paint needs to be sealed with something. Otherwise, when it gets wet or damp or moist, it's going to not hold up because it is a water-based clay mineral paint. Now I had these little strips of fabric and this crocheted lace ribbon, and I'm just going to make a little messy bow. I just cut them and laid them down, and I'm going to take a piece off of this burlap ribbon, and I just pulled a little piece off that was fraying and wrapped it around there. The twine was a little too thick for this bow, in my opinion, for what I was going for, and I just tied it in a knot, tied a little bow in the center with that same piece of ribbon, and I glued it to the center in the middle. I glued down those medallions right where they are, and I just love how this turned out, the Star Spangled Banner, and it just makes me want to sing it. So I think this is absolutely gorgeous. Let me know how you think that these little medallions turned out. This DIY is so simple. I'm just spraying this down with some water. I'm using a wet wipe, and you will see that I'm just going to keep using a wet wipe and this paint to stain this little scrap block of 2x4. Okay, I'm going to continue this process until I get this entire piece of wood covered with this brown paint, the top, the sides, and all of it. And now it is completely dry, and I love the color. We're going to set that aside, and we're going to grab these little wooden stars that I picked up in a multi-pack, a large pack at Hobby Lobby when it was on clearance, because we don't pay full price for anything when we're crafting, correct? And I painted them red, white, and blue. I'm going to take some dark wax by DIY, and we're going to put it on here, and then we're going to buff it out because I just wanted to deepen and darken and make this wood look a little richer. I'm going to drill some little holes in the top of each one of these stars so that I can attach them to this jute twine that I am wrapping around the top of this little block of wood. This is one of the most simple DIYs that you could possibly do, but it's so cute. This little DIY turned out cute. It was simple, but it was cute. I just decided to hang these little stars by this little tiny thin string that I bought on clearance after Valentine's Day at, I don't even know, Target, I think, or somewhere. And then I just took a little bit of this burlap ribbon and just cut a little piece off and pinched it together in the middle to make a tiny little bow, and pinched it up in the middle. frayed the ends a little bit, and I did end up hot gluing it down a little bit so that it wasn't so floppy, and I did hot glue one of those stars down on the back so that they kind of laid how I wanted them to. But I think this to be such a simple little DIY would be so cute on a tiered tray, or just add to a little vignette like I did there. Now this I got apricots in. Apricots, however you guys say it, and it's a great thing to put your paints in. Okay, here's a visual of all the spindles that I still have left over. These are those long ends that I cut off, and I cut those off to use the spindle, so I have a lot of these laying around. So I cut them, and we're going to make a flag. So I'm painting some of them red, some of them white, some of them blue. So you'll just see, just painting is easy. I'm not going to show you all of that, so we have time to get in more DIYs. So the short ones I'm doing blue because that's going to be in the upper left corner, just giving them all a good coat. This is the Hey Sailor by DIY and Marquee by DIY, and I'm going to say this is probably Beadboard by DIY because it looks a little bit more white. And then I have these tiny little reds. They're not red, they're wood, tiny little wood stars that I got on Amazon for a project a long time ago, and I have a ton of them left over. And they had various sizes too. If I can link that in the description box below, I'll try to find the link for that. So I'm just going to dab a little bit of white paint on there, and then I'm going to take this weathered wood and a chippy brush and do a tiny little bit of distressing on this. I didn't do a whole lot, and I only did the blocks that would, no, I think I did all 4 sides of them. I just did it a little bit. I didn't do it major. And then I did take a sanding block and sand just the edges a little bit. I didn't do it really major, but I did do a little bit. Someone asked me recently if I distressed every project that I made, and I said, pretty much. I do like clean lines and, beautiful, clean, fresh projects, but I do like it to have a little dimension and a little character to it. So this is what I did, and then I clear waxed the whole thing. Every single little block I clear waxed it because we don't do all this work to have the project not last. And then I'm going to glue all the pieces together. Oh, I used a brush to brush the wax on the longer pieces because it was just easier. And then I took my little rag and wiped down the wax to smooth it out and make sure that it got all over everywhere good and didn't have a lot of excess. Okay, so then I'm taking wood glue and hot glue. The hot glue dries faster. The wood glue gives it a stronger hold on this wood. And it worked really good even though it was already painted. You know, we like wood to wood better, but this worked really good. So I did this on all the pieces and glued them all together. But I'm not going to show you that because it's all redundant, and right, we want to see more projects and less redundant steps. Okay, then I place my stars where I want them, and then I take my little detail glue gun by Surebonder, which I absolutely love, and I just put a little drop of glue, and I'm not really being very pedantic about that they're all even and in place because it's rustic. And I really fought the temptation or the desire to put some twine on there, but I thought it looked really cute just as is. Now I went outside and I cut this scrap piece of wood to look like a cutting board. Now this piece was left over from a project my husband and I did. We made a cupcake stand, and this piece of wood was really warped. Once we got the cupcake stand ready to assemble, we realized that this piece of wood was really warped. So it's been in my little stash of scrap wood for a while because there's only certain projects it would work good on. So I took it outside and cut it, and it's perfect for this one. And so I'm just staining it with some stain. I decided to use some stain on this one, and I'm using a sponge brush and just going to stain the front, back, sides, all of it. And then I'm going to take it inside once it's, and I'll let it dry for probably about 4 to 6 hours. And I'm going to measure down however far I wanted it to be. I'm going to do that part blue, and then I'm going to put some stripes. And then my cousin helped me decide how
far the stripes needed to be because I wanted them to start red, end red, just like the flag. And I am not good with numbers, y'all. I am not good with measurements or numbers. I want to eyeball everything, and I just could not figure it out because it was 7¼ inches wide. Now, if it had been 8 inches wide, now we're going to make them 2 inches each, that would have been easy. But no. It was not even. So, that made it even harder. So, being the smart, intelligent person she is, she helped me. And so I got it all, drawn out and then taped off. I painted this with the Hey Sailor. Got it painted. I didn't do like really full coverage. I just did one coat because I liked that the wood showed through a little bit, and you'll see in the end why. Now I'm taping off the parts that I don't want red, and then I'm going to use that marquee again, and I'm going to do one coat of marquee, and I'm painting away from that tape because I don't want it to seep under. So I'm pulling the paint away from that tape. I'm trying to really kind of exaggerate it so you can see that I'm pulling away. My big fat hand's kind of in the way, but anyway, that's what I did. And the good thing about the DIY paint is it's water soluble, so if you make a boo-boo, you can take that wet wipe and just erase it. Now I'm taking all the paint off, and look at those lines so you can see there. Okay, now I used my Cricut. Here's the plug for Cricut. Cricut did not sponsor this video, so I didn't feel the need to really do a big Cricut video, but I did cut these little stars out on my Cricut. I didn't want to do a sticky stencil because I didn't want it to pull my paint up or take that chance, but I do love to do paper stencils when I'm just going to use it one time like this. And I didn't care even if it bled a little bit because it's so rustic, but I did not get any bleeding. And then I just kept moving my paper around until I got the stars everywhere that I wanted them. You do have to be careful that you don't have any paint on the back side of that paper when you lay it back down. Then I wrapped some twine around here and made my little knot a little bit off-centered. And I had this little solar wood flower. That's not really what they are, but they come from Dollar Tree. And I just put that on there, and that is that. How simple. And that is it for these DIYs today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every one of them. I saw these little houses and I thought they were so cute. And as much as I love scrapbook paper, I did mine a little different than Emily did hers. I saw these on Etsy. So I used these houses from Dollar Tree, the wooden houses. I still have a few of those left from the big bundle I bought. Some little stars that I've gotten from various places. And so I'm using my marquee by DIY, and I'm going to give this a good coat front and back and sides. And I get my DIY paints from Sammy at Unicorn Dust Designs, www.unicorndustdesigns.com. There will be a link to that in the description box below, so go and check out her website. She has a ton of beautiful things on there for sale, as well as the DIY paints and some salt wash. This is Hey Sailor by DIY. It's a beautiful blue, and I'm going to paint this house with the blue. Same story. Front, back, sides. I'm not sure why I'm showing you all this painting, but yes. And there's the website. You can find it in the description box. I'll always have a link for it in the description box. And there we go. It's beautiful blue. And then this one is White Swan. It is not a stark white. It has a little bit of a maybe an ivory undertone to it. So I'm trying to make these a little bit rustic, so that helps make it a little bit rustic. Then I'm going to paint these stars red and these stars white. I'm waiting for those houses to dry, so I'm going to paint these stars while I'm waiting for the houses to dry. I do use my heat gun a lot for drying paint, but sometimes I like for it to just dry by itself. Now I'm going to use the Weathered Wood by DIY and do some dry brushing so that it just, we get a little bit of texture, dimension to these houses. I'm making some lines because I want to make it look like these houses have some shiplap or wood slats. And so I put the lines on, and then I take this eraser. I learned how to do this on accident because I was going to erase my lines and I decided, oh, I like the way that looks. So I've been doing that for a while. Now I'm going to take the weathered wood with a tiny little chippy brush, and I'm going to just kind of dry brush it over those lines. And then I'm going to take the bigger chippy brush and just kind of go around the edge a little bit, feathering it into the center so that it looks a little bit like wood. Making some faux wood here. I want each one of these little houses to look a little bit different. And then I'm going to take some, not sure what color this is. I want to say faded burlap, and just put a little bit on because I want it to look like some of the paint has chipped off. Like maybe there's several layers of paint on this house and some of it's chipped off. Now I'm going back in with, you know, a layer of paint here, a layer of paint there. And I'm taking the faded burlap and just dabbing a little bit on the white stars to dirty them up a little bit. And I think I used some brown on the red ones, I'm not sure. And then I'm just going to take my sanding block and sand the edges off a little bit and sand them down a little bit. Make them look rustic. Then I have these teeny tiny little stars that I got on Amazon, and I wanted like 5, and I bought a whole bunch of them, so I've been using them for a long time. So I'm going to glue them right in the center of the white stars, and I'm trying to figure out where I want to place them. First I thought I wanted them on top, then I decided I would put them down the side. I thought that looked cute. And then you can't have rustic without twine, in my opinion. Burlap or twine. So there you go. That was the first one. You'll see all 3 of them together when I finish all 3 of them. Now, I started with this little chippy brush and this weathered wood. And I don't think that this chippy brush was wet because these are the same brushes I was using earlier. I didn't wash them out. But for some reason, this is taking off the Hey Sailor paint instead of adding the paint, and I just kept trying to add paint to it. I added some of the faded burlap, and it added the faded burlap to it, but you can see how it just kept taking the paint off. So I was fine with that. I really liked how it turned out, so it was fine, but I don't know really what happened. So then I put my clear wax on to seal it, and it took a little bit more of the paint off. I'm not sure what was going on with that Hey Sailor that day, but I love how it turned out. It looks very vintage, almost, it looks old. So I'm putting some more of those tiny little stars across there, another little twine bow, and that one's complete. Now for the White House, not to be confused with Washington DC. Ha ha ha. Same thing, same colors, distressing all of them with the same colors, but they look different because they are different colors. Now this one, I'm not gonna lie, this one probably took me the longest because I kept having a look in my head that I wanted, and I just wasn't getting it. So I'm using this weathered wood, and then I go in with the faded burlap, and again, I wanted it to look like there were layers of wood that had chipped off, and you know, I can get that with the salt wash, but I was really not wanting a lot of texture. I wanted these to be a little bit more flat. So I sanded it, and then I added a little more, and then I sanded it, and this is what it ended up looking like, and it looks fine. So I decided I didn't want all 3 of these red stars in the end. I'm just going to put one up there and make it simple. Wrap some twine around. Yes, distress this a little bit with a little bit of sandpaper, and then just glue it right up on the top. Come on, hot glue gun wasn't plugged in, wasn't hot, something. Okay, we'll just wrap this twine around. Not sure why I'm showing you this. You already know how to do it. Here we go. Wrap it around. glue it down. I love this look. I did not create it. I saw someone do it when I first got on YouTube several years ago, watching, and I fell in love with it. Okay, I had forgotten to clear wax, and so I had to do it after I put my twine on. If you're using DIY paints and you don't clear wax or wax it, seal it, you don't have to use wax. You can seal it with whatever. They are clay and mineral-based paints, and so they are water soluble. You can actually wipe your paints off with water, so you need to seal it. So here's the finished product. I saw this little pot. I love a terracotta pot painted, and Typically Simple made this, and I thought it was adorable. So I made my own version. I had this big terracotta pot out on my back porch, and of course, you know, the plant that was in it didn't make it. So I decided I was going to do it. It didn't have that lip on the top, so I'm going to kind of create that wider section up top. So I'm doing 2 inches from the top. That's going to be my blue section. And then I did 1 inch sections for the red and white stripes. Okay, so I just did that little arrow up top, so I know that was going to be my blue part. So I'm taking this sponge brush because it has a really nice smooth edge. I don't care if these lines are, I didn't think I cared if these lines were completely straight because it's supposed to kind of look uneven. Well, my inspiration piece was, and I liked the way it looked like that. But it's really hard for me to not want it to be perfect and smooth or even. So I was trying not to make it be like that. So here we go. So I got the blue done, and then here I go with the white. Look, I'm trying to make it so perfect. Finally, I was like, just do it. Just do it, Kendra, just do it. So here I go. So I'm doing the red, white, red, white, red, white. So if this is your first time tuning into my channel, welcome. My name is Kendra. This is Late Night Creations, night like my last name because I create late at night because I do work full time, and it's just a wonderful outlet for me to create late at night. And I started that because I could create after my children went to bed at night and when it was quiet in the house. And so if you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It always tells me like who's watching, and usually it says a large percent of the people watching are not subscribed. So you guys go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So now I'm just taking that sponge, one of those sponge brushes, and dry brushing white all over. Then I'm going to take some sanding block and just do a little bit of light distressing, not a lot, but a little bit. And then I'm going to take the clear wax, and I'm going to put clear wax all over it because, again, this is the DIY paint, and we don't want this paint coming off because we worked real hard to get that on there. So then I decided I wanted to put a star on it. So I did kind of a light coat of white on there. I didn't do full coverage. And then I just did a dry brush around the edges with the blue and just sort of feathered it in toward the middle with this. This is an old brush, and it was a real stiff bristled brush, so I call it my small chippy brush. I use it for dry brushing a lot. I didn't get on camera putting the twine on, but I just wrapped the twine around the pot, and then I glued the star right there, and that is done. I just put some eucalyptus vine, stuffed it all down in there, and there's the pot. My next DIY was inspired by Dusty's Rustic Woods, and I believe this was for sale on Etsy, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a cute little rustic wood blocks. I'm not sure what size they were, but I had these wood dice in my stash that I've had in there for almost a year. And so I mixed some layered chocolate and some crinoline, just a little dab of crinoline in there because I wanted it to look like a stain. And so I am using a wet wipe. I'm painting it on and then using a wet wipe to wipe it away. And I love how this turned out. You know, it's going to dry up a little bit lighter. And then I ended up sanding them down a little bit and yeah, and then I painted them. I just sanded the edges a little bit where I think they would be worn. And so here's what they look like after I painted them brown. I wanted them to look like they had been stained. And so I'm just going to paint one of them blue. These are a little bit different shaped than the inspiration piece, but it's the same concept. Okay, here's where I do things a little backwards. I thought I was going to try to use some tape, but the tape wasn't the right size, so I folded it in half and it just wasn't working for me. So I had already done that, so I used the tape as my guide. Well, first I'm going to use some double stick tape from Dollar Tree and tape the blocks together so they're not moving around on me. And then I'm using this as a guide, and then I'm going to measure how big the stripes should be, and then I'm going to draw lines, and then I'm just going to paint them on. That was so much easier than trying to do what I was doing in the first place. So I just took my time, put on some music, and out in the craft cottage, and just chilled and painted. This is very therapeutic. So I just did red, white, and I just got a tiny little paintbrush and painted those little areas. And when I do that, I'm resting my hand on the side so that, see, I'll rest my pinky on the side there so it balances me. And I'm going to put this little star, I'm going to paint it white. And then I'm going to put that in the blue space. I'm going to take a little bit of that same color that I used as the stain and just barely dry brush it a little bit. Same with the star. Then I'm going to sand it down a little bit, give it that worn look. Clear wax all the pieces because, again, we need to seal it. If it were to get wet or the moisture in the air could cause the paint to not hold up. I'm trying to watch what I'm doing and talk at the same time. I'm like, what? Why are my hands so dirty? Why didn't I wash my hands in between doing all this? I do have a sink in the craft cottage now. It is so cute. It's a little white porcelain. It's a miniature pedestal sink. It is so cute. I need to do a craft cottage tour. Now I'm taking off the tape, and now we're gonna hot glue these together. And even though it's not raw wood, it's paint, these stuck together good. I did not have a problem them not wanting to stick together with the hot glue. So, yeah. I think this turned out so cute. This, I don't know, I really like all the DIYs in this video, but this might be my favorite one. You'll have to let me know what you think. But I love little miniature things. Anything that can go on a tier tray, I love it. And I just wanted a simple little piece of twine. I think everything has twine on it in this video today too. Okay, I found this when I Googled string art because I wanted to do it. And so Stephanie Cornwall of makingofamom.com had this on her website. So I had this big chunk of wood that came from that dumpster dive video. If you haven't seen that, go check that video out. And so I'm testing some different DIY waxes to see which one I want to use. And I decided to go with the dark wax. I did that on the back. So I'm going to use the dark wax. So I'm just going to wax the entire front and sides of this, and I'm just applying it with this brush and then just wiping it with a rag, but it is really porous, so it was really soaking it up good. So I'm going to use those three colors of twine. They're linked in the description box below. Now I took this piece of chalk and I just sharpened it with my X-Acto knife, and then I have these wooden stars. Yeah, they're stars, and I'm just going to outline them. Now I did the first two, and the third one I did a little different, and you will see that I was trying to think I knew what I was doing, and it didn't turn out as good. But so I'm just going to take these nails and hammer them in however close together you want to put them. I like to put them pretty close together so you can get the shape in there really good. So this is where I'm doing them. I'm doing them on each point and then one in between. And then I'm making sure that the middle of that is lined up good so it's straight. So I just kept going until I got all the way around. You want all your make sure that all your nails are straight up and down and not crooked. I'm sorry that my camera is shaking, but it's on the table. The tripod is on the table, and when I hammer the table, the tripod shakes. Now I'm just taking that brush that I used to do the wax with, and I'm just dusting that chalk off. Now I have all three stars done, and I'm figuring out which one's the top because I want it to be red, white, and blue. I'm just going to take this twine and I'm going to just do a single knot, but I'm going to put a little drop of hot glue in there. And then I'm going to go all the way around the outside to outline it, to pay attention, and then loop it around each nail every time you do it. You have to let me know in the description box. You have to let me know in the comments below if you've ever done string art. We used to do this in school. I've done it with my grandkids. Actually, we did it with rubber bands with my grandkids. They had a blast with it. Okay, so once the outline is done, then you just start going back and forth, back and forth. You have to be a little strategic because you don't want to go over. See, I had to redirect because you don't want to go over. See, I kind of got out of lines right there. I should have caught that. I got out of line right there too. What in the world? Yeah, you don't want to get outside of your lines. But at the very end, we're going to go around and outline it again. So I guess it catches that. I guess I caught that. But you can see where I'm trying to figure out not to overlap a nail without hooking it. I'm like, how am I going to get around here? So now I'm going around the outside, and I'm making sure that when I loop it around, I'm on the outside of the nails every time. So this is going to make an outside outline, and I'm pressing down all those layers of thread or twine. You can do this with embroidery thread too. That looks really pretty. And then when I get back to where I started the outline, I'm going to do the same little knot and put a little drop of glue in it as well. So I'm just going to create a knot. Put a drop of super glue so it doesn't come undone, and cut it off. And then here they all are done. You could see that blue one, I don't know if you could tell, it was a little wonky because I thought I could eyeball some of those nails. Well, I couldn't. So I did take my hammer and hammer the nails a little bit to get them kind of back in shape. But there it is. All the books in today's video came from Dollar Tree. So I'm starting out with these two, and I'm going to rip the front cover and the back cover off, leaving this nice, just neutral cover on it that looks a little old, and I don't really know what that look is, but I like it. I'm going to get a pair of tweezers and peel off all the excess that I couldn't get off with my hands and just make it all nice and neat. And then there's what they look like, and we're not going to worry about that print on there because I'm just going to glue those two together. Just put some hot glue on them and glue them together, and they will stay together just fine like this. And technically, if someone still wanted to read the books, they could, because that was just the extra page with the extra writing. Now, I've got some scrapbook paper, some Patriotic scrapbook paper that I got at Hobby Lobby. I love this scrapbook paper. I'm going to trace out the size of the book. This is going to be put on the top or front of the book. I'm going to cut it with my scissors, and then I'm just going to put some Mod Podge on the book, on the front cover, that little page of the book. When I decide which way it all needs to be, make sure that I'm getting it the top on the top, the bottom on the bottom, and the scrapbook paper the direction that I want it. I'm going to put a good coat of Mod Podge on here, and then I'm going to let it dry completely. Once it's completely dry, I'm going to position my scrapbook paper on here, and then I'm going to take my little mini press and I'm going to iron it on there. Not a lot of pressure. It is high heat. If you use your iron, just make sure that you don't have any steam. This reactivates that Mod Podge and glues it down on there with no wrinkles. Now, I'm just practicing because I'm going to use my own handwriting to write God Bless America. Now, I don't have horrible handwriting, but I don't have the best handwriting. But I don't mind it because I like that it looks a little organic. So I'm just doing it for spacing. I'm going to practice, and then I'm going to write it on here with a pencil. And then I can go back with my marker and go over that so that I can get my placement, because look at that little S. If I had made that little S with a marker, I would have been so sad. So I can erase it, and then I can make the S right. You see that I rest my pinky? I do that a lot when I paint also. I will see how I rest my pinky up there. That will stabilize my hand so I'm not shaking and that it stays stable. Okay, here I go with the marker, and I'm just going to make some of the edges a little thicker than others and just trace over those letters. I'm just tracing over the pencil marks. So I'm not even like really trying to write the words. That's why I can turn it sideways. In fact, it was easier sideways because I wasn't really trying to actually write it again. I was just tracing over the pencil marks. And then I took, so they're making it a little bit thicker in some places. No rhyme or reason to what's thicker. Just did it. And then I'm going to take my sandpaper and very lightly sand over the words. And then I'm going to sand the edges to get all the excess scrapbook paper off. And it also gives that paper just a little bit of a ripped edge, raw edge. And then I'm going to take the Weathered Wood by DIY and just dry brush around the edges. And this is really porous, so it's going to soak it up good. And then I did it, you can see there on the scrapbook paper, I did it around the edges of the book all the way around. So now just taking some twine, I'm pretty sure I got this at Dollar Tree, and going to just knot it, and then I'm going to make a finger bow. I've tried to do this slow enough. This is in real time. I didn't speed it up so you can see what I'm doing. So if you want to learn how to make this simple little bow that's super easy, just rewind and rewatch and practice until you can do it, because it took me a hot minute before I learned how to do this bow. But it's super easy. I don't use it on every project, but it is so quick and easy. I absolutely love it. And then I just twist and pull and poke until it looks like I want it to. You can do 2 loops, you can do 6 loops, you can do 20 loops, however thick you want your bow. Now I'm pretty sure I glued that before I got my strings all where I wanted them, but there we go. And now I'm going to just glue that little bow right on top. Then I decided I wanted a little star in the middle, and I had gotten this pack of stars for a different project last year from Amazon. I didn't use very many, so I have a bunch of them left. And they're the cutest, tiniest little laser cut star, wooden stars. And I'm just going to glue them right there. And I think this turned out adorable. Along with the books in this one, I'm going to be using this craft paper roll from Dollar Tree. It's in the mailing section where you get the packaging things, and I'm going to just make a book cover. Now, if you have a better way to make the book cover, be sure and do it. And I'm going to show you all the steps that I took to cover this book. It turned out great. There may be a better way to do it, but this is how I did it. It really reminded me and kind of took me back to the days when we had book covers on our books at school. Leave me a comment and let me know if you remember the book covers. We had the brown ones, and we had to put the book covers on our books, and we would get in trouble if we didn't have book covers on our books. And then we had some white ones that had advertising on them. So I guess the different stores in town could sponsor to probably pay for the book covers. I don't really know. I was in elementary school, but I remember Dairy Queen would have an ad on there, and some of the department stores in town. I grew up in a really small town, so yeah. So I'm just folding it. You can just see what I'm doing. I'm going to cut this on the spine, and then I'm just going to tuck that down inside eventually. I want to do it on both ends. Sorry, part of this is out of frame because I was really just trying to get it up there where I could see it and figure out what I was going to do with it. Honestly, it was kind of a fly by the seat of my pants because our book covers already had the lines where you were supposed to cut. I loved covering books. I would cover all my friends' books, or the boys didn't like to cover their books. I would cover their books for them because I really enjoyed it. So I'm just going to use a little bit of masking tape to wrap this like a present or a gift because you are not going to see this part. And I decided I needed more than 2 hands to do this job. So I'm going to rip a few pieces of tape and just stick it down here on my scissors that are laying there. And then those pieces of tape will be ready. I can just reach over there and grab them. That's kind of what I do when I wrap gifts at Christmas. I do have had one of those little dispensers that you wear on your wrist, but it kind of annoys me. So anyway, I probably shouldn't have shown both sides of this, but I guess I did. I was editing because I am late night. Night is my last name with a K, but it's just a play on words, but I am a late nighter. But lately, I was sick at the beginning of the month, and since then, I've had a hard time getting my energy level back. So the old gray mare ain't what she used to be. So anyway, I probably was dozing off about this time while I was editing. Okay, so here it is, all nice and tidy. I did both books the same way. They look great, if I do say so myself. I'm just going to glue them together, same way I glued the other books together. A little bit of hot glue, and it's going to hold these paper books. You could do this with brown paper sacks. You could do it with anything. You could do it with patterned paper if you wanted. Now, I did this free printable. I got it online. I will see if I can find the website and put the link to the website in the description box below. And she had some really cute little vintage. I just Googled vintage Patriotic free printables. And I thought this was so cute with the little children. And I don't know, I just liked it. There were a lot of them I liked, but I really liked that one. And it wasn't big enough to just put on the front of the book. So I had this little wooden tag. And I mixed a little bit of layered chocolate. I mixed a little bit of crinoline in with my layered chocolate because I wanted it to be kind of like a stain, but I knew I couldn't use the antique wax by Waverly and use Mod Podge, and iron it and do all the things because of the wax. So I decided to use this paint, and I'm just doing kind of a heavy dry brush and then wiping it with a baby wipe. And I love the way this color turned out. And I'm glad that I overmixed. I had mixed it for a previous project, and I'm glad I overmixed because I've really been using it. Now I'm putting the Mod Podge on the back of this image, and I'm going to let it dry completely. And in the meantime, I'm going to take my sanding block, and I'm just going to sand the edges of this so that it looks a little worn. I'm trying to make this look a little bit vintage and a little bit rustic. And then I'm going to get all the dust off, clean it off good. And then now that this is completely dry, I'm going to lay it on there. And you guessed it, we are going to iron it on. This is my favorite way to Mod Podge. No mess, less mess, no wrinkles. It's smooth. It feels like it's that you bought it on there like that. And then I'm going to take my sandpaper and I'm going to just sand around the edges of the image just a tiny bit so that it looks a little bit worn. It didn't really do a whole lot, but it just enough. You know, sometimes too much is too much and not enough is not enough, and that was just right, like Goldilocks. Now I'm going to take my DIY clear wax and I'm going to wax this, and I want you to notice how much this brings out those colors in that image. Look at that little piece of paper. Would you look how pretty that looks? Okay. I know y'all always say you like it when I leave in my boo-boos. So here you go. This one's just for you. I made these little stencils on my Cricut, and I thought, oh, I'm going to use some Old School by DIY. I'm going to just randomly kind of put that on there so it'll look old, and look. That's not what I was going for. Oh, boy. Yep, there I am. Hand in the face in the hand. Okay, so this is what we do when we're creative. We fix our boo-boos. All is not lost. I went to the scrapbook paper bin where I keep all my scraps, and I found this perfect piece of scrapbook paper, perfect color. I cut it to fit over that. Wait till you see what I do with this. I cut two the same size, got out my corner rounder. If you don't have one of these corner rounders, you get yourself to Hobby Lobby or somewhere and get you one, because, oh my gosh, I use this thing all the time. It just makes everything look a little better. These kind of look like tongue depressors, I'm not going to lie, but not when I get done. So I'm going to take a little bit of that Old School and that makeup sponge, and I'm just kind of dabbing it around on there because I want it to look a little worn. Now let's try this again. I'm going to do it on here before I adhere them. This is that Old School, and then I decide I need some masking tape on it. So at some point I put some masking tape on there because I was having to be way too careful. It was taking way too long. So yeah, I'm going to put some masking tape so I can just go to town. Well, I did speed this up, so I'm really not going that fast. I know y'all are smart enough to figure that out. But I didn't really want this to be like complete full coverage. If it was, fine. If it wasn't, fine. If it bled a little bit, okay, because kind of going for that, you know, rustic, old, vintage look. I love how that turned out. I don't even care that there's a little bit of paint on there. And why I picked English and History as the books, don't know. Just what I picked. Then once it was completely dry, I took my sanding block and just sanded the paper down a little bit. And then just, you know, sanded my books down a little bit. Just the paper just looks good when it has it's just a little bit roughed up when you're trying to go for that look. Now I decided that I was going to just use my purple school glue and just get a bunch on there. And this paper was cardstock. It's really thick, and it didn't want to like go around the shape of the book very good. I had to really work with it, and I decided that was for the birds. So next one, I formed it a little bit so that it was, you know, had a little bit different shape. Got out my Alene, however you want to say it, tacky glue. And mine is super thick because, remember, I had the freeze back in December. It got super thick. It didn't, I wouldn't say it ruined it, but it made it super thick. But I love it because I can just paint it on there, and it's super thick, and it dries quick, and it adheres well. So we're going to use that to do this one, and you'll see that it goes on much nicer. Yes, it sticks much better. A lot less worry. Then I had these adorable teeny tiny brads left over from some scrapbooking supplies. And so I thought how cute it would be to have one on there. Like it looked like, the book had been recovered or fixed, and that was how they fixed it. Because we used to repair stuff, not throw it away. So I decided to just put those in. I'm going to show you now how I did it. So I just barely pinched that. See that? I pinched those little pieces off that make the brads and left that tiny little stub. Then I put it in the book, and I could just mash it just to kind of get it in there a little bit. Then I just took these little pliers and just pounded it a couple times, and they went in there. I did that on all 4 ends. Then I'd taken this beautiful crocheted lace that I love from Dollar Tree, and I got this red and blue and white twine on Amazon, and it is linked in my description box. So you just watch what I'm doing. I don't even know what it is I'm doing. I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants here. I don't think I even knew what I was doing. I always have an idea what I want to do, and then sometimes it turns out different, and I'm like, oh, well, that turned out better than I had anticipated. So I decided that I wanted one of those strings to go through this little banner, but I wasn't sure how I was going to do it because I knew all of them couldn't. So I just decided on the white one, which was a good choice, and then I just tie a little knot in the middle to keep it in place because I want this to be a seasonal book stack that I can switch out. So I can just take this, I can just slide all of this twine and lace off and then put something else on for another season, because that history in English can be for any season. So that was my goal, was to have it be interchangeable. So I'm not gluing any of this down. So I can put another one of those tags with something else, or I could just do something else entirely different. Then I thought, well, I'll just do a simple little bow. Nope, that wasn't good enough. So I cut the ends off, and then I make a finger bow. Wrap it around my fingers. That's what I call a finger bow. I don't know. Maybe something else. And then I don't do the loop it through. I just made the loops, and then I used those strings to tie it in the center. And I lost my strings. Come on, focus. And then get it even right in the middle, and then I tied it really tight. And then I like to put, I don't know if I showed it on camera, but I like to put a drop of super glue right in the middle so it doesn't come undone. And here is the final result. What an happy accident. Don't you love the binding of that? Let me know if you like how this turned out. On this next book stack, we're going to do some molds. I'm going to use this amazing cast-in resin that sets up in 10 minutes. This stuff is amazing. Its name is amazing for a reason. It has A side and B side, which I call part A and part B. And you mix equal parts, and I have bought this little kit on Amazon as well. And you just mix it well and pour it in, and in 10 minutes, it is set up enough to pop it out. Now, to completely cure takes about 24 hours, but you can work with it in 10 minutes. So this has been probably a couple hours, maybe an hour, and it's perfect. So now I'm going to measure it because I'm going to have to cut it down a little bit. So I'm going to pick where in here I want to cut it. And it was a little bit long for the book, but I would rather it have been a little bit long than too short, and where I would have had to cut it in here, I didn't want it to be that short. So then I took this sanding block and I just sanded the edges around so it was smooth, and that worked out great. Now I'm not going to show you that I painted these books front and end, and I only did the top and the bottom book on the top and the bottom, and then I did the binding and a little bit on the inside in case it showed. And now I'm going to glue our finished resin pieces to the book. I don't know what I was trying to say. we're going to do it to the binding. I'm using that same Aleene's tacky glue. I'm trying to figure out which one is the bottom one, because this is going to be on the bottom because it's the largest and I thought it would look the best. Now I'm going to use a little masking tape just to hold it, and then I propped it up until that glue dries. We had a birthday party to go to, so I just left it till we got back from the birthday party. When we got back from the birthday party, it was dry, and then it was ready to paint. Now I thought all three of them with those long rows of resin would be too much. So this one I thought was great for the center. It was three little tiny ones and they fit on there, and some of those rows were too wide to fit on the binding of the book. So this is what I did. Sorry I was out of focus there for a minute, but this is what I did. So now I'm going to use this glue to glue my books together. I'm going to do this on the outside, and I'm going to use the hot glue in the middle. Don't ask me why. I don't always have a reason for why I do what I do. This glue is almost gone and it's super thick. I usually store my glue, my wood glue and my Aleene's glue, any of these glues, I store upside down. I have a little, one of those little buckets that comes from Dollar Tree, and I have all those upside down in there because then it's just easy to get it to come out. Now my camera is trying to focus on the hot glue gun instead of what I'm doing, so that was kind of crazy. And that glue gun had not been turned on, so I had to use the other one. So here we go, press it down, and there we go. They're all three. And I did distress a little bit on the pages, and I'm going to do a little bit of touch up here and just make sure that it's all even, and the tape pulled a little bit of paint off on one end, and then I'm going to paint over the resin pieces now because they were already white, but I want them to have the white paint on there so that they look like the rest of it for when we glaze it, because we are going, or wax it, we're going to put some wax on it, and they are going to look amazing. So just giving it a quick, I'm stippling to get down in the cracks and the nooks and the crannies, and then going over it so that there's not any that paint pooling down in the crevices. Now I'm going to clear wax it first because I don't want the dark wax to be so dark. So I'm going to take this clear wax and an old piece of a t-shirt, one of my husband's old undershirts, and I don't know why, maybe it's just my husband, but the neck of his undershirts, they get all stretched out and they get, just old looking, and the rest of the shirt is fine. And he wants to keep wearing them, and I say, no, we need to get rid of that. So these are the shirts that I cut up because they're still fine. It's just the neck gets stretched out or the arms get stretched out or something. They just don't hold their shape that great. So now here I'm going to dry brush. Once I get the clear wax on and wipe it all off, I'm going to use the dark wax by DIY, and I'm kind of dry brushing it on and wiping it off until I get how much I want. This way I can control it. If I just go put a bunch of dark on, then I may get too much. I would rather layer it and get the amount that I want on here. Now I knew I wanted a little more on the binding of it, so I did go ahead a little bit heavier handed here and then just wipe it back because I wanted it to be dark down in those little crevices and the nooks and the crannies. Look at all that detail that comes out when you do this. I just love it. Now I'm going to take just some regular old twine, and this one I think has enough ornate decoration on the binding that I didn't feel like I needed to add a lot to the top of it. And sometimes I just like simple. I don't think you have to add bells and whistles to every little inch of space, but this also I feel like I might be able to switch out. So I picked up this burlap at the Denton Vintage Market where I used to have my craft booth, and I absolutely love it. I ended up taking that edging off or recutting a piece. I didn't end up using this bow, But see, I'm trying to make it where I can take it off and add, maybe no, I think I glued it on. Never mind. But it would be easy because I glued it to the twine. But I think I could easily take it off and use it for another season. I'm not sure what I'm doing here. Oh, I decided I want to, oh, yeah, okay. Let's tie it in a knot first, and then we'll make our bow. I did not show you on camera that pretty sure I cut another piece, because do you see that white stitching on top but not on bottom? Drove me crazy. So I cut another piece, and then I unraveled a little bit of the burlap so that it was the edges were a little rough, and redid it off camera. I did not want this video to be so long, and so yeah. So put a little glue it down. And this burlap did not really want to glue down good. It kind of has a little bit of a finish to it, almost like it has a finish to it. And then I just did a simple little twine bow, and you can see here what I'm talking about on that bow. But I really, really like this one. I think it turned out really pretty. So let me know which one of these 3 book stacks is your favorite. Leave me a comment below if you like book stacks, if you like to decorate with them. Do you like to do them seasonally?
With this little chunky mason jar I got at Dollar Tree a Christmas or 2 ago. I ordered a whole case of them because I couldn't find them anywhere, and so I'm still using them, so that was handy. So I'm just going to give it a solid coat of white chalk paint. I'm taking some gray with the white still in my brush and just giving it a little bit of shadowing to give it a little bit of dimension. And you can do as little or as much of this as you like. Sometimes I go back in and add some more dry brushing later. I had this multi-pack of stars that I've used over and over and over with my Patriotic DIYs, and I think I got a multi-pack of them at Hobby Lobby. I'm painting some red and some blue with chalk paint, and going to lay those aside to dry while I go back to my jar. So I have this aluminum cookie sheet, baking pan, whatever you want to call it, from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to cut out a little piece and trace around the top of this mason jar to create a lid. And you can just trace it, and it makes like a little indentation, and it's real easy to cut a straight line because those little I don't know, divots in there are all in a straight line. So I don't want to keep those divots in there, so you can use a number of things to smooth those divots out. You could use a spatula, you could use that little scraper that came with the rub-on transfers, but I really prefer to use my Cricut scraper. Now I'm going to get a straight edge, and I'm going to use my scoring tool. I think I'm using my scoring tool there. Nope, I'm using that little transfer thing. I'm trying to make some lines in it to, I'm going to change to my pencil. You just use whatever works. I'm going to make some little lines in there to make it look like those lines that are in the lid of a mason jar. So here we go. There it is. I'm trying to make it all however it's supposed to look, however I want it to look. I'm going to use some of this tacky glue because honestly, with the hot glue, that gets really hot. I do use it with the aluminum from time to time, but I'm going to use a little elephant chalk paint by Waverly, and I'm going to use a stencil brush because it's kind of chippy, and I'm just going to, dirty it up a little right after I protect my white paint with some painter's tape. And I'm just going to kind of brush it on, wipe it off, brush it on. Oh, need a little dry brush on there. I told you sometimes I go back and do that. Just give it a little dimension. Now I'm going to take some white chalk paint and dry brush with an old beat up brush because it was small. I needed a small one. And I'm just kind of dry brushing over these with no rhyme or reason. And it took me a minute to kind of get the rhythm of how I wanted them to look, but it doesn't even really matter if they all look the same. It actually looks better if they don't all look the same. Then I'm going back to that Aleene's tacky glue, craft glue, and I'm just randomly putting all these red, white, and blue stars in the mason jar. I kind of like them off to one side. You do it however you like to do it. But this is, where do I put that red one? Where do I put it? Nope, not gonna put it. Changed my mind. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do. Now I'm gonna wrap some twine. I've been using this red, white, and blue twine on every project because I am in love with it. I got it on Amazon, and for the roll that I got, it's huge. It's a very good price. Now I'm gonna fray it, unroll it and fray it, and I tried to put a bow on. I can't remember if I decided I liked the bow or not. We'll see. It's been a minute since I did the DIYs. But I did like the way that it looked frayed and, you know, doesn't that look cute? Yep, but I'm making a mess everywhere, so I got my little makeup brush out that I got from Dollar Tree, and I like to dust it off with that in case I have some paint or something on my hand. I don't get it dirty. Yeah, I think I decided that I like it like that instead of, well, what do I decide? I don't know. I don't even remember. I don't know. What did I do here? I'm at a loss for words. I think I just added an extra piece. I added an extra piece of just the twine in there without the bow. Yep, looks cute. So that's what I decided to do. I have 3 little chunky pieces of wood. You could use any little pieces of wood that you have or something from Dollar Tree. These are just some little pieces that I have, and I have some red, white, and blue paint. Gonna paint 1 red, 1 white, 1 blue, and I'm also using that cookie sheet, that disposable cookie sheet. You get 2 in a pack from Dollar Tree, and I absolutely love using them on DIYs to get that metal look. And I did the sides, the top, and the back on these. And then once they were completely dry, I distressed them. I think I get that on video here in a little bit. But I'm gonna use my scraping tool to smooth out those bumps, little rivet bump things, because I wanna cut out some stars. Now I'm telling you that corrugation in the corrugated part of that cardboard makes it, can you see that those ridges that it makes in it? And I kind of like that. It makes it look like that sheet metal. So I'm using my Cricut scoring tool. It works great. Pencil works just as good. And then I'm going to cut these stars out with my scissors, and it works great. Now I'm back to the elephant chalk paint for a little distressing, or it's not really, I don't guess it's distressing because it's making it look old. So it doesn't really stick to this aluminum tin very good, but just a little bit of it to make it look a little old is good. And then I'm gonna do a little brown paint to make it look a little rusty. I like the brown on there too. Now I'm gonna distress these little blocks of wood. I use my sanding block from Dollar Tree, and then when it gets old, I just get that sandpaper from Dollar Tree. That you get quite a few pieces of sandpaper in that pack. It's a really good bargain. And then I just wrap it around that block and hold it in my hand. Now I'm using this little scraps of burlap, and you could use some burlap of that wider burlap ribbon if you have that. And I just am fraying all the 4 edges and making it fit right in the middle. And I'm going to put a little hot glue on each piece of that and glue those down to each wood block as soon as I clean up my mess. And then I'm going to glue each star to the middle of the burlap. Easy DIY, but so super cute. And I used some more of that twine on these. So here I am deciding what colors I'm going to use. Do I want the blue on the red? Do I want the red on the blue? Nope, can't put the white on the white, so I better put the red on the white so I can put the white on the blue. The white's a little thicker. It's a little bit different. They didn't have it in the same brand as the red and the blue, or I ordered it at a different time. I'm not quite sure, but I just love this jute cord, jute twine in the different colors. They have it in so many different colors. And you can see those big, huge spools over there on the left of the screen. And they were like $6.99 for those huge spools. You can get them on Amazon. So here's the finished product. I think they are so cute. I hope you're enjoying this video. My name is Kendra and you're watching Late Night Creations. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you are a returning subscriber, hey, I'm glad you're here. Be sure that you hit that like, the thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed for some reason, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Let's get back to the video. Okay, so I'm gonna use 2 of these little chunky mason jars this time, and I'm just gonna show you, because I haven't done this on a video in a while, that I'm just gonna cover this whole thing with a glue stick. I'm gonna use some of that brown packing paper that you wrap packages in to mail them, and put that on there. It sticks really good. This paper's kind of thin. And then I'm taking my X-Acto knife and just pressing really firmly all the way around. And that little mat I have underneath, you can get those at, you can get small ones at Dollar Tree. I had ordered mine online on Amazon, and I melted it, so I cut it down and I use it to smaller pieces. Yeah, you can see that on a video that I did where I used my heat press on it and didn't have anything under it because I was being blonde at the moment. So I'm just gonna give these a good coat of navy sides all over, and then I'm gonna take some more of those little stars. These are all the same size, and I'm going to coat them on one side with white chalk paint. And I don't even care if it's a good solid coat, if they're all coated evenly and equally, because this is just one of those projects. And they're all gonna be the same. So now I'm going to make a little crate. So I've got these jumbo craft sticks, and I ordered these online on Amazon, but you can get them at Walmart in the craft section. So I'm gonna do half of them red, half of them white, and 3 of them blue. I did not record myself painting the blue ones, but I paint both sides of the craft sticks, because you're going to be able to see both sides. Now, I didn't record doing the top of this mason jar with the aluminum, because I already showed you that in the previous. So you can rewind it and watch how to do that again if you forgot. So it's easy peasy. Wrap that twine around each one of them, and I'm gonna just tie a little bow. Just gonna tie and then just do like a little shoestring bow. Just gonna loop it through there and tie a little shoestring bow on each one. I'm gonna do the exact same thing on both of them and just have some little tails hanging down. And then, what am I doing next? Yes, there's my painted sticks in blue. I'm telling you, I painted them in blue because I didn't show you that. Now, I'm going to put the blue ones on the bottom. This is gonna be the bottom of our crate. And I used my ruler to measure to make sure that I got them all on there evenly, because you know my favorite word, cattywampus. I can get things cattywampus real quick. That's what I do, because you know I just like to just do it and then weep later when I didn't measure first. So we're gonna do red, white, like the stripes on the flag. I don't really know if red comes first or white comes first on the flag. I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna do a good coat of Mod Podge all over this whole thing, so it'll be nice and protected. So if it gets dusty, maybe you guys don't get dust at your house, but I live in the country and we have dust at our house, and I like to dust. I don't like to dust, but I like for things to get dusted. So it works better if you have a little Mod Podge on it. So there's the final product. You can put a plant in it. You could use it for your napkins and your plasticware. So next to DIY, I picked this up at Dollar Tree. I peeled that sand dollar off. I'm going to dry brush a heavy coat of brown paint, it's apple barrel, I think. I don't even know what color it is. It's brown.
I write on the lids. You can see I write on the lids the colors so that when they're in the drawer I can see the top of it. I'm using my scoring tool to kind of see how much I need to cut off. I use my paper cutter to cut it off, and I cut it a little bit short, so part of it that I cut off, I'm just going to use that piece. Then I decided that I needed some cardstock behind it in case you could see through it, because this came from one of the Dollar Tree calendars. It was for the month of July, and they're thin. The pages are super thin, but they fit really nicely in these pictures. And so I'm going to put that, attach that right back on there. Now Sammy over at Unicorn Dust Designs had the idea. She came up with the idea. Well, I don't know if she came up with it, but I watched on her video that these calendar pages fit in this particular frame perfectly. So I had to try it out, and there you go. There's that little tassel I tried to use in a previous video on a banner, and it was way too short. So here we go with that cookie sheet again, and a sign from Easter, and it was peeling off, and it peeled off really nicely, so I just went ahead and peeled it. So I'm going to trace around that with my scoring tool. And you have to be careful with these things because this aluminum can be sharp, and it's worse than a paper cut, y'all. It's happened. In fact, in one video, I have a Band-Aid on because I cut myself with that aluminum. So be careful. So I cut it, and then I'm kind of measuring it to make sure that it's right. And I am using hot glue, but be careful because I do have my finger protector on, because that is hot with that hot glue. It does. You'll see me in a little bit. I get my t-shirt. There we go. Because it's hot. So I've gotten it all glued down now, and I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and trim off the excess, and then I'm going to take my little tool and bend it around so that, you know, it's not dangerous and cut. Now this ruler was perfect for the stripes. We're going to make a flag out of this. Now I'm using my scoring tool to score. You could use a pencil if you don't have a scoring tool, and then I'm going to make a portion of it for the blue and continue with the stripes. And like I said, I should have looked at a flag to see how the red and the blue, white go to make it, you know, politically correct. Seriously politically correct. But I just decided to start with the red. So I'm using a makeup sponge and some red chalk paint to go in between those lines. And if it's not perfect, that's okay, because this is a very rustic DIY. And then I decided to make that blue section a little bit smaller than I had originally traced it out. And then I'm just going to put the blue chalk paint on there. And it, you know, like I said earlier, the paint doesn't adhere very well. So I just did the best I could. And I really like that it shows through, because I want this to look like a metal sign. So it's okay if the colors kind of touch each other. And so now I'm using some more of that brown paint from Apple Barrel, or one of those acrylic paints, I don't know, and I'm just giving it a little rusted effect. I did a little bit around the edges and kind of like where the paint would meet, and a little bit where maybe I didn't make the paint meet real well, and I don't know why I did two different browns maybe. Now I'm using one of those sticks that has the sponge on it that you paint with, and I'm just dipping it in my white paint and making some circles for the stars. And I hope this doesn't offend anyone that I didn't do stars. I'm doing circles to represent them. And I'm showing you how I buy my Mod Podge. And I've had this for over 2 years, and you can see that I've barely used any. I'm showing you with my finger how much of it I've used. And I just pour it into this smaller container. I get nut butter in these containers. You can see I eat a lot of that nut butter. I am vegetarian, and so I eat a lot of nut butter. And so now I'm covering it with Mod Podge to seal it so all that paint doesn't scratch off, because it comes off that metal really easily. So whatever your preferred method of sealing is, it definitely needs to be sealed. And we're just going to put a twine hanger on the back. I'm going to put a little amount of hot glue, and then I'm going to put a lot of hot glue and just use a little piece of fabric. I've been using this, it's a canvas drop cloth. I was given this burlap ruffled ribbon, and I ironed it. So I got it out and I ironed it because it was all ruffled. So I made these, pretty sure they were 9 inches. I don't know, you can look on my little mat there and see. And I made 9 of them. And then I took some painter's tape and I used one little piece as the guide and then another long piece so that I didn't paint it. So that was representing my white, which I didn't do white. We just left it burlap. But then I put some cardboard under it so I didn't make a mess. And I just used my little handy dandy sponge and sponged on some red. And it worked really good. It covered good enough. You know, it's rustic. And so you don't want it to be too covered. And then I did every other one red and every other one blue. So look how pretty that is. Look how pretty. And then I took a sponge and I just sponged, this is a sponge brush, and then I just sponged blue all over it, just kind of haphazardly until I got as much coverage as I wanted on there. You can do as much or as little as you want. Again, it needs to be kind of rustic. You could even water this paint down a little bit to do this. I think that would work really good if you didn't want as much coverage. And then I took some more of that white cardstock and I'm just kind of holding it down with my fingers. I did tape it around the edges and giving it a good coat of that white, and it turned out good. Now I made a tassel with this red, white, and blue twine I ordered off Amazon, and my last Patriotic video I did, I used it. If you saw that one, if you didn't, go watch it. It was a look for less. It's a good video. And I'm sorry I'm out of frame here. I'm not real sure what I was thinking. I was trying to concentrate, I guess. And so I made this with my hand. I made this little tassel, and it ended up being way small. I'm not sure what I was thinking. They turned out really cute, and I ended up using it on another DIY later in another video. Yep, there's another Patriotic video coming out. 3's a charm, right? So stay tuned for that one next week. Another way to get, okay, so the tassel, wrap it around your hands and then loop a string through the top and tie it off so that they're tight. I'm keeping it taut down there too so they don't get it all willy-nilly. And so then we're going to tie a knot in the top. I'm not sure what I'm doing there. Okay, go ahead and tie it, Kendra. There we go. Tie a knot in the top really tight. Get it nice and tight. Okay, tight. For some reason I only did the red strings on that one. I'm not sure what the rhyme or reason was to that. There's not always a rhyme or reason to everything I do. Okay, smooth it all out nice and straight, and I made sure that I was putting it in the same spot as the other one. Now I sped this one up good. Wrap it around the top there so you have a little top knot. Trim it down. Make sure it's all nice and straight again. Cut those ends. Now, it was all wrinkled, so I put some water on it, and it straightens it right out like wrinkle and release. And trim it up. Oh, they were short. You can see the long ones I made up there. I'm going to give you a little instruction on that in just a minute. So I took this twine, put it in a large needle with a large eye hook, and then we're just going to feed this twine. We're going to just feed it through the holes of the burlap. And yeah, just make a banner, you know, just feed it through there, through one and then through the other. And I'm not going to show you the whole thing. I'll just show you a couple of them. Put it through there, trying to figure out, yep, make it even. That's always nice when it's even. It's not all cattywampus. You know, we say some really weird things in the South. Cattywampus. I don't even know where that came from. And then I do kind of fray the ends so that it looks has a little frayed, ragged edge. I think that looks cute. And Whitney did hers that way too. Whitney does some amazing DIYs. You should definitely check out her channel, and definitely check out Sammy. She's about to have a baby, and so she needs all the love she can get over on her channel. She does a lot of wood rounds. If you like wood rounds, go check out her channel. She does a lot of wood rounds. She does a lot of really, she does some shabby chic, which is totally my style. I absolutely adore Sammy. Anyway, go check out their channels. They'll be linked in the description box below, as well as the playlist of everybody who's on this playlist. And so check them out. So you can see that I used that box to wrap the tassel around to make it longer. And then I just put one on each end, and then I just frayed the edges, the ends of this. Tied a knot in the end, tied the tassel on the end, and it is done. The first DIY is this sign I saw on the Kirkland's website, and they wanted $49.99 for this. Oh, we know we can make it for less than that. So I picked up this sign at Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use the back side of it, but we're going to cover that front side with some paper. So we're just going to give this back side a good coat of white chalk paint. Actually, I did 2 coats, but I'm only showing you one, and I'm not real sure why I showed you me painting the whole thing. But anyway, I gave this back side 2 good coats of white chalk paint by Rust-Oleum in the color Linen. And I like to finish out the backs, so on the back side I just covered it with that brown like packing paper, like you would wrap a package if you were going to mail it. So that finishes off the back and makes it look nice. I dry it with my heat tool, give it a second coat, then I divide it as evenly as I can, and then draw the lines on there and kind of smudge it to make it look a little bit like shiplap. Then I made this decal on my Cricut. Now, if you don't have a Cricut, you can use other kinds of stencils. This is not a decal, I'm sorry, it's a stencil. So I made this stencil on my Cricut. And you can find stencils at Dollar Tree, at Walmart. You can use stickers. You can use your own handwriting. There's all different ways that you can do lettering on signs. I just chose to do this. So I'm going to use different colors of the different words to try to make it look like the sign that was on the Kirkland's website. So I mixed my own color of blue paint because I didn't think ocean was dark enough, and the navy was a little too dark, I think. So I mixed it. I'm going to use some crimson by Waverly and the aged gray by Rust-Oleum. And I'm going to use these makeup sponges. Bargain Bethany turned me onto that long years ago when I first started watching her to paint with the makeup sponges. They work great, especially when you're stenciling. So I'm going to use this. Maybe I am using the navy by itself. Yep, sure am. So you just pounce, 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 dab, dab, dab. And you can do 2 coats if you need to, if you don't get it on there. This paint was a little bit thin, and I did 2 coats of it on there. And then I did the gray on the stars, and I'm going to do gray on Freedom as well. And I'm going to do Family in red. I'm not sure if I get all that on video. Sometimes I skip some of the painting because it's pretty straightforward and simple. Nope, I'm going to show you how to paint the word family. Just dab, 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 dab on your stencil. If you choose to use stencils to do this. And it was kind of challenging to decide where to put those lines and to line all of this up. So yeah, it might be easier to just, free hand it, but I wanted it to look pretty much like the sign from Kirkland's because it is the look for less. So you want it to look as close as possible when you want to copy that, if you want it to look like the stores. So my fonts are not exactly the same, but it is the look for less. So I'm crossing my fingers when I take this stencil off that it works out good. And it does. It does peel off that white chalk paint a little bit, but I can go back in and touch that up without a problem. I do find with the Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint, that happens to me a lot. Not necessarily with other paints, but with that white, it happens to me a lot. But it's really not a problem. I just go back in with my white and touch it up. And I've got these white paint pens that I'm going to use, and I end up using the Sharpie. It was given to me by someone, so I have no idea where it came from. The other ones I got on Amazon, but where that navy blue bled. I'm going to use it, oh, and the red, I guess, the red too. I'm going to use it to touch up instead of using a paintbrush. It worked like a charm, and it has a very fine tip. Those other two paint pens, the tips are kind of fat. And you can see that I've touched it, all of it up, and it turned out really nice and crisp. And I touched that up. It's still a little bit wet. Looks good. Thumbs up. I'm going to reattach the little twine hanger that came with it. I love that those have the little plastic tabs on there and you can reattach them. And here is the final product. So did we get the look for less? Yes. Kirkland's has this cute decor piece for $99.99. That's ridiculous. We can make it for less. So this is a large piece of wood that came off of an old swing set that fell apart in our yard. So I had my husband save all the pieces, and guess what? We're DIYing with it. So I sanded it all down and filled in the cracks with some wood filler, and some of the cracks were pretty big, so I puttied them up pretty good. And I'm not real sure, maybe you can leave a comment below to tell me why my wood filler cracks. Maybe it was because I used too much, but it shrank in there and left, it cracked. But maybe you can tell me what I did wrong. So now I'm going to drill holes in there to put our fuse in, and I'm going to give all 3 of those wood pieces 2 coats of this white chalk paint by Rust-Oleum in the color linen. It's called linen. I call it white, but it's linen. And then I taped off the tops of them with some masking tape. You could use painter's tape, whatever you have. And I'm painting it in navy by Apple Barrel. I love this paint. I love this color. I love navy. I love all things blue. And now I'm painting the bottom, not the top. So I end up having to drill another hole in there. If you hang around me long enough, you'll see that I just haphazardly do things sometimes, and I have to go back and redo or fix my mistakes. So now we're going to peel the tape off, have some nice clean lines, but for some reason this white chalk paint peels up with the tape or the stencils or whatever, like I mentioned earlier. So we just touch it up and it's no problem. Now I'm going to use my painter's tape, and we're going to create those stripes, those red and white stripes that are up and down, vertical. And see that crack? You could see it right before I put that tape on. If you didn't see it, back up and look at it, because that's where my, I wanted to say wood filler cracked. But it's okay because I just kind of filled it in with a little paint and it turned out okay. So now I'm going to take my Crimson by Waverly and just paint in between there. Now, if you can see what I'm doing, I did not tape off the top up there, and you're going to see when I realize that what I did. So I'm going to do 2 coats of the red as well. Right there, I realized I did not tape that off. So I'm trying to wipe that paint off. I think because it was blue and my painter's tape was blue, I didn't realize that I didn't tape it off. I didn't need to tape it off. I don't know. I'm such a ding-dong sometimes. So anyway, it's okay, because guess what? We just go back and we put some blue paint on it, and nobody knows the difference when you're done, unless you've watched this video. So anyway, now I put the tape on there, and it's going to be okay. Yeah, I do that. I do that a lot. I do like ding-dong stuff a lot because I am blonde. I do color my hair blonde, but I am blonde. Blonde all the way. So here we go. Not sure why I'm struggling there with that, but I'm going to do... Now, I said I did 2 coats, but I think I did 1 good coat. And then I just kind of go back and touch up where I feel like it needs maybe a second coat on just parts of it, if it needs it. Now, I'm kind of... Can you see how I'm going across that tape? I don't know. I feel like it doesn't bleed as bad when you do that. And then I would just lightly went down in the center. But you do however it works for you when you paint across the tape. So I'm gonna reuse this Dollar Tree painter's tape because I don't wanna, waste any money because I'm trying to do this look for less. And you can see that white. Can you see that white paint up on the top of that blue? And you can see the pieces over to the right, the top blue parts have some of that on there too. I think you see that white on my table, on the paper on my table. I think it just kind of acted like chalk and got on there. I don't know, but I go back and touch it up and it came off really easily. So that wasn't a problem, but I need to start with a clean surface every time so that that doesn't happen. After I painted the white, I should have gotten a clean surface. So here we go, peeling it off. You can see a little bit of that white paint peeled off with the painter's tape, but it's okay. We just go back and touch up. Not a problem. See, there's that crack I was telling you about. So when I touched up, I filled in that crack with a little bit of white paint, and it looks fine. I'm totally happy with how it turned out. Okay, so now I made a decal with my Cricut, and you could use stickers from the Dollar Tree or Hobby Lobby or Walmart. And I'm not showing you how I do all this because it's the same step and the same procedure with all of it. Now I'm doing the stars with my tweezers because I don't know why. I just wanted to. And so I just wanted to place them where I wanted them. I don't know why. I do the things I do sometimes. And so I'm going to put these big stars on the sides, like the ones in the picture of the ones from Kirkland's. And then I'm taking this jute twine that's wired that I got at Dollar Tree. And you know that jute comes away from the wire. And so I just like to hot glue it down to it. I just put a little hot glue on there and twist and pinch it. And it stays on pretty good once you do that. So I use my little silicone fingers that you get at Dollar Tree. Then I'm going to fill that little hole that I had to drill again because, I painted the wrong end. And then I have a little fuse, and they turned out so cute. So did we get the look for less? Yes. Our last DIY was on Amazon for $20.99. We can make it cheaper. So I found these at Dollar Tree for $1.25, and I just cut it down into 3 pieces, and then I had a little piece of scrap wood. So I'm going to paint these red, white, and blue, and you don't have to see me paint all of them because you know how to paint. So red, one white, one blue. And I really am enjoying doing all this patriotic stuff because I was raised in a very patriotic family. So then I'm going to make this little flag. I'm just using some little vinyl strips that I had scraps. You could use painter's tape, you could use masking tape, and I just taped it off and then painted it red, then taped it off, painted it blue, and I didn't show you that I put some little white stars that I cut with my Cricut out of white vinyl. I don't know why I lost that footage. And then I lost some other footage too. I don't know what happened to it. But I used this stencil and stenciled this one white. And it's the same procedure for all 3 little blocks. But, just use the stencil it on, and then take all that off. And I did that for all 3 of them. I do not know what happened to the footage, but like I said, it's the same for all 3 of them, just different colors. And then I'm taking a little sanding block and I'm just sanding it down to make it look a little bit old and rustic. Then just gluing the 3 pieces together. This was the easiest thing. If you love to paint, it was just the easiest thing ever. Did we make this look for less? Yes.
Thank you if you made it to the end of this video. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Please make sure that you're subscribed. YouTube tells me that over half of my people that view my videos are not even subscribed. So please make sure that you're subscribed. It really helps my channel a lot. It helps YouTube think that people like me and they push my videos out more. So, but most of all, more than anything, please remember to be still and know that He is God.